Today we're going to be doing a villain tier ranking list. This is for all the villains that have been released from the beginning of the game until Age of Apocalypse, or through Age of Apocalypse, right? We'll be including those villains as well. I think I have them all listed here. If not, we'll do a quick cut and fix it and whatnot. But yeah, I'm really excited for this because we haven't done this in a little while. And I'm basically doing this based on how much I enjoy playing the villain, right? We're not going to do like a straight like, oh, this one's the most difficult, this one's really easy, because that's pretty subjective. It's just going to be, or not subjective. Well, I guess it is. But for me, I'm just going to stick to my subjective list, which is just like what I enjoy and what I think is fun, right? And what I think is cool and whatnot. So we're going to go through the tiers. We're going to go through all the villains and whatnot and place them in different orders. Do me a huge favor before we go any further. Go over to twitch.tv/D20 Woodworking. That's where we live stream. We live stream on YouTube as well, but Twitch is the better place in my opinion. Come hang out. It's a great time. We talk about Marvel Champions. We play other games. We just, do whatever. It's a lot of fun. Definitely worth checking out. All right, let's go tier rank some villains. All right, so I believe I have all the villains here. I don't know. We'll find out as we go along, right? But I'm basically breaking this down to 5 categories, right? So there's what I consider is the most fun, just what I enjoy playing. I think they're not too boring. I think they're well designed, right? Like kind of my most fun and what I think is well designed usually go pretty close with each other because I want to play well designed heroes, right? That makes sense. So yeah, that's the number one thing. Things I just enjoy. It's gonna be number 2. Like I don't hate the villain by any means, but I enjoy playing them. But I just don't think they're the most fun out there. They are fine, right? Very middle of the road. Like yeah, I'll play them, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. Tier number 4 is play if I have to. If you again pay attention to our live streams, we do a lot of marbles racing where we literally race marbles to decide who I will play. And if it lands on this person, like okay, I'll do it, but it's not the greatest thing ever. And the bottom tier, as always, is the Loki tier. Maybe someone will join Loki down there because there have been some pretty disappointing villains in the past few years. So I don't know if anyone will, but we'll have to see, right? But Loki tier is let's just fix this now. Loki is the worst design hero. He is not fun. I cannot stand him. Anyway, we'll just put that right there. So let's go in. I think this is mostly alphabetical order or pretty close. But whatever it is, we'll go through it. So all right, number 1 is Absorbing Man, or the first one we have to do is Absorbing Man. I'm not the biggest Absorbing Man guy. Like I like he's all right. Like he started off all right, but the problem is he's way too easy nowadays. So I'll play if I have to. It's not that I hate him or anything. It's just that he's so incredibly easy, right? He's so incredibly easy that I just don't see it to be really worth it. So anyway, I'm going to place him right away at play if I have to. I think he's dropped a little bit over time, but that makes the most sense because there's better designed villains nowadays. Speaking of better designed villains, we have Apocalypse 2. And Apocalypse 2 is the whole scenario with like the folding card and whatnot. And this is the final villain of the box. And he's like a little disappointing as a final villain. Like he's not disappointing. He's like a little disappointing as a final villain because he's not like super great. Like the flip card mechanic I'm kind of over by now, or like the fold card mechanic I'm kind of over by now. So if they don't do it again for a few years, I think I'd be all right with that. But yeah, he's good. He's good. He's a good challenge. He's on the easier side of stage 5 villains, which doesn't make him easy, right? I'm not saying he's easy. He's not easy. But like if you compare the stage 5 villains, he's one of the easier ones, I guess. But I don't think that's a bad thing, right? I don't think that's a bad thing. I enjoy playing him. He's probably gonna end up lower down here on the I enjoy tier list, but I still enjoy him. I still think it's pretty cool. All right, next up we have Apocalypse 1. I don't know why I put them in reverse order or why the thing did, but I must have done something wrong. Here's the thing. I think Apocalypse 1 is the better challenge. I think he's a more interesting way of doing things with the prelate minions and you have to get rid of them and then like doing the whole side scheme thing. My worry is this starts off really strong like Hela did, and there becomes a pattern of how to defeat it. And I don't know if he has the lasting power to stay up there. I'm going to put him, I think both Apocalypses are actually going to be kind of near each other right now. I actually worry about Apocalypse 1. I think in my review, I rated him really highly, and I'm actually worried about him falling down more. And I think because I've played so much Apocalypse 2 right now that I have Apocalypse 1 a little bit higher, I think Apocalypse 1 is going to fall into that predictable pattern of like, okay, just time your side scheme flips at the appropriate time to get the minion out and then just hit it for the bunch of damage you need to do, right? Like, I think that's where it's going to fall into things. And it's basically what has happened to Hela, and Hela is going to be dropping and whatnot. So it's just, I don't know. It's just not as, I was hoping for more, I guess. I was hoping for more staying power. But the problem is with a lot of these very thematic kind of scenarios, not all of them, but a lot of these thematic scenarios, they fall into a predictable pattern and they slowly drop over time because you get used to the pattern. So that's not all of them. I think there's some that break free of that, but this one, unfortunately, I think kind of falls in that camp. All right, next up we have, I think this is the Collector 1, right? Let's just double check this really fast. Okay, so I had to look at what Collector 2 was, Escape from the Museum. This is Collector 1. So Collector 1 has the cup, Collector 1 is the cup. Here's the thing. I recently played Collector 1 again, right? I don't know why. Well, no, I know why, because I did a video with another content creator, and then I played it again off camera to see, like, was it as hard as I thought it was? What? No, he's just the design is so bad now and so annoying, and the reason being is because they've done this design better now, right? Honestly, they've done it better now with what is it, Sentinels, right? They've just done it better. The fact that he collects his own minions and his deck is stacked with minions is the most infuriating thing in the world, right? You already have the minions in the encounter deck. Why are you collecting them out? Really, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I played him again recently. I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's trash. He's just trash. I just, if I never play him again, I'm fine with that. I don't think he's worse than Loki. I think Loki is that bad, but I'm done with the Collector 1. I don't think there's any reason to really kind of do that anymore, to be completely honest. And also, what's nice about this, and I haven't mentioned yet, is that we have so many villains now. Like, I want more. Don't get me wrong. I want more villains than I want heroes at this point. But we have so many villains right now that we're in a really good spot with Marvel Champions that, like, okay, if I never play Collector 1 again, like, it's okay. When we only had 2 boxes, Rise of Red Skull and Guardians, and I didn't want to play Collector 1, like, that was a worse feeling because it's like a higher percentage of the villains I didn't want to play at that point. Now, it's not that case, right? If you have one bad or off villain, it's not the worst thing in the world. So, all right, next up we have Crossbones. He's still a play if I have to. I don't like doing all the mod. Come down there. I don't like doing all the mod sets for it. Crossbones is fine. I don't think he's anything too unique. He's whatever. He's just kind of a whatever villain. I don't like putting in all mod sets. I don't think it's anything super fun and interesting. And the thing is, like, there's been some villains now that have had like 3 mods that you pick out and you shuffle and pull them randomly and stuff like that. And I think that's been more interesting and better versus, like, I just grabbed 3 random ones, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Crossbones. I've never been a big fan of Crossbones. So he's just play if I have to. Like, I won't be mad if he gets played every now and again, but it's just whatever. All right, next up we have Dork Beast. I know on the card it says Dark Beast. It's obviously a misprint. It's supposed to be Dork Beast because of his goggles. I think he's fine. I like his whole the speaking of the different side schemes that, or not side schemes, the other encounter cards that come with him that you pick out, and like sometimes you get dinosaurs and whatnot, and that's really cool. So I like his mechanic. The thing with Dark Beast is that he's very basic in the way that he works, right? It's not super complicated. It's really straightforward. And that isn't always a bad thing, right? It's not a great thing, but it's not a bad thing. And I think a lot of people are knocking on Dark Beast because, like, there's a lot of interesting mechanics in the Age of Apocalypse box. And I think for him, like, it's okay that you have a villain that's just like run-of-the-mill villain, right? You need that every now and again. I actually think he's not a bad testing villain. Like, once you have your deck more refined, I think it's actually a decent idea to test your deck against someone like him. I think it will prevent a good challenge that's pretty balanced, I would say. So yeah, he's kind of like, to me, a very like right in the middle type of villain, personally. All right, next up we have Collector 2. Don't ask why they're separated. I have no idea why. I must have spelled Collector 2 wrong. But anyway, Collector 2 was always guilty by association with Collector 1 because Collector 1 is that bad. Collector 2 is actually not terrible. It's one of the interesting first schemes that we had where you had to remove a bunch of threat off the main scheme. If you knock him out, like, it removes some threat. I still kind of like that mechanic. I actually don't mind Collector 2. He's a good challenge for what he is. Again, I think he just got a bad rap because, and I'm guilty of this too, is that Collector 1 was so bad that's like I didn't even want to think about doing Collector 2, right? But I think he's fine. He's right in the middle of the road. Like, whatever. I'm totally cool with that. All right. So next up we have Drang, who I don't really enjoy Drang because of the free resource generator. I feel like I can't. I feel like I can't test my deck well against him. I feel like he's just like a very run-of-the-mill standard villain. Like there's nothing like super interesting about him. I'm not super excited about him. Like he's kind of whatever, to be completely honest. He's just kind of whatever. So I'm gonna rank him pretty low. I know people test their deck against him, and I think if you didn't include the resource generator, that's fine. But because of the resource generator, like it doesn't really work. Like I think it's gonna mess up your testing. So anyway, he's pretty low for me. All right, so now we have Mr. Sinister, who out of the next evolution box, I think is for me right now the villain that withstands the test of time. I think Mr. Sinister, I don't know where to put him exactly yet, but I'm going to put him at I enjoy because I do enjoy him a lot. He's really tough on solo with like, because he's going to threat out the first like 2 main schemes really quick, right? Because like each time a main scheme advances, he gets a whole nother set of cards with setup and he gets really tough and whatnot. I actually, over time, now have liked him a lot more. I play him a couple times two-handed off stream, and I like him in that setting too. It's like a little more fair, or a little more balanced, but it's still like kind of quick paced and kind of makes you go. And I've seen a lot of people complain about him that he's a little too fast for people, but I think he's like a right speed for me. So I like him. It's really just to me like setting up like how fast can you build out versus he build out, and then his final stage like you kind of have to prepare for and figure out how you're gonna make sure it doesn't pop the main scheme the final time, while him like doing a ton of different like terrible things to you. So I don't think he's most fun. I want to play him some more. But I think for me personally, he's the shining star of the next evolution box as far as villains go. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, and we'll get into that in a second because the next one is the one I think people are going to disagree on. But I think in a couple of years from now, when we look back at this box, I think most people are going to say, yeah, Mr. Sinister is like the best one of it. And you know, obviously that's just an opinion and people are going to disagree with that opinion. I get it. But I think even years from now, I'm going to look back and go, nah, Mr. Sinister was like the strongest one from that box and the most interesting. Now, thematically, one of the coolest ones is Juggernaut. The problem is Juggernaut is a bit too easy. And Mr. Sinister kind of hurts with this too with Hope, because Hope Summers just makes the scenarios a little too easy. The problem with Juggernaut is because when you take off his helmet, anything that has a mental resource like Hope deals extra damage, and all you have to really focus on is taking off his helmet and just pummeling him really hard. Like, just be aggressive with him. Even in multiplayer, flip his helmet, get really aggressive with him. Yeah, and it's not that it's easy, but it's easier in that sense. We're gonna put him right, kind of above middle. So I don't hate him or anything. I think thematically he's cool. I like the villain overall. I like the momentum counter idea. It's a little too easy to flip his helmet off and get him going. Like it's just a little too easy. So anyway, I like the idea of him. I really do. I really do like the idea of him. But I don't know. It's just I know a lot of people like him, and I know this is gonna upset people. The main scheme is not that hard to keep in control. I think people have a hard time because people like flipping down a lot. You just don't flip down, right? You kind of keep making sure he doesn't get overkill. If he ever had overkill, you have to deal with that. But keep your health up, get some cheap blocks in there or whatever, and you'll be fine. Like you'll be fine. Just have a lot of mental damage cards. You'll be fine. Like it really won't be that hard. On Expert, he's a pretty good challenge. It's a lot more fun, but yeah, he's fine. All right, so next up we have this is the Marauders, like the first one, next evolution. Solo, this is way too easy. 2-player is actually a little trickier on 2-player, and then 3-player, I did it once, and it went back to easy. I think on 2-player it's harder because for solo you get when you do the knock counter thing, you get the 2 Marauders out as a solo player, and as a 2-player, I think you only get 2 as well, which is just not. Like, they're going to go through the Marauders faster, so you have to be a little more defensive on things. So it's actually a little bit more of a challenge in 2-player, I've noticed. And I think it gets easier again in 3-player. But for solo, it's a very easy scenario. It's a very easy scenario. And as long as you get the tough statuses on the Marauders, I think you're pretty set because there isn't a lot of life for the Marauders. Or not, or are these the Marauders? Whatever they're called. So I'll play if I have to. I don't like this scenario. I don't think it's as bad as I don't think it deserves to be down here yet. On Expert, it's an interesting challenge, but I don't think it's a great one. But what are they called? Morlocks. The Morlock mutants, whatever. Morlock Siege. The Marauders are the villains. So I was getting them mixed up. But anyway, yeah, the Morlock ally thing. I think again, like if you get the tough stats on them, it's not so bad. They do have a decent amount of life, so you have to be careful with, you know, kind of how these guys work. I don't mind how they work with their force interrupts, which I think is pretty interesting. But the problem is, leading right into Hope's capture, I think that's a more interesting scenario. I've come around a little on Hope's capture. I know I was pretty just like down on it. That's like, these are 2 trash scenarios in a row. I've played it more and more. On expert, it's a better challenge. It's a more fun challenge. On standard, I think it's still way too easy. I still don't think it's like that good. But on expert, it's actually a pretty decent challenge. I think Morlock Siege on expert is still kind of easy. I haven't really had to sweat it too much. But Hope's capture with, what do they officially call that? On the run, right? On the run. I think on expert, it's a pretty good challenge. On standard, it's like okay. Like if I have a bad deck, it's a decent game then. So I've come around like a little on it, like a little. I know I ripped it pretty hard early on, but I've come around like just a little. So anyway, it's gonna be at the bottom of they are fine. Next up, we have Hela, and we've kind of alluded to this earlier. Hela used to be one of my top villains, and I still enjoy Hela. But she's at the bottom of I enjoy. Like it's just the timing mechanic is a little too predictable. It's a little too straightforward of how to do things. And it's sad. I mean, it's sad because I really like the idea of it. But I think this is, again, my worry for Apocalypse 1 is that when you have that like kind of sequence of events things, it gets a little too predictable in how it does things. And I think there's only one villain that's kind of broken this because they don't do it exactly like they do. And we'll get into that villain a little bit later on. But yeah, just kind of whatever. All right, so next up we have Doc Ock, which is really of the Sinister Six. I still think this is one of the best design scenarios. It's hard, it's challenging, it's fun. It's really rough, even though I hate the rule text box on it, which I've complained about because I've played it wrong for a while, and then I played it right, and I stopped playing for a while, and then I think I played it wrong again. I think I'm all over the place. I still hate the force response on it. I still disagree with the ruling on it, but that's neither here nor there. But regardless, I think the design of the villain scenario and how it works, I think is really fun. I think it's really cool. I really like it. I think thematically it's pretty cool too. I hope that a lot of these villains get their own like villain deck eventually and we can fight them individually, but as of right now, I'm okay with what it is. So up we have Claw. I don't enjoy Claw. I think he's fine, but he's basically just a giant test at this point. Like that's his sole purpose in life is just to be a test. So he's fine, right? I don't know what else to say about Claw besides he's fine. There's nothing crazy about him. All right, then we have Ebony Maw, who, like, he's fine. He's fine. Like, I don't hate him, but he's very just whatever. He's whatever. So yeah, he's. I don't know what to say about Ebony Maw. Like the test counters are magic counters are basically there as a timer mechanism. So you have to speed up a little bit. It kind of falls very into how I play the game anyway. So I think for other people who aren't used to playing that way, it's a better scenario because like it's tough for them to be like, hey, I don't play this more tempo rush type of style build versus I do that all the time. So this is kind of like straightforward and easy to me. Like it's even on expert, it's kind of easy. So it's fine. I don't hate playing it because I don't overdo it, but I don't think it's like an amazing scenario. All right, so we have the Four Horsemen. And Four Horsemen is a better challenge on multiplayer. Novels and I did it somewhat recently, and then I did it again two-handed offline because I wanted to see if I could do it by myself. And it's a better challenge. I still don't love the scenario. It's not for me. Solo, it's way too easy. It's way too easy of a scenario for solo. It's balanced really weird. But yeah, it's multiplayer is a better challenge. I know people have said that if you play a 4-player game, it's absolutely rough and devastating, and I believe it. But because of who I am as a player, as mostly solo, even as a 2-player, like if I'm gonna play a multi-villain stage, like I'd rather play other ones. Like this isn't at the top of my list, or even close, to be honest. I'd rather play some other ones. So no, it's pretty far down there for me. All right, then we have Master Mold, who he's fine. He's fine. I'm kind of tired of Master Mold. I think he has the Hope Summers problem, or really the Magneto problem, is what that originally started with. Was him having Magneto, or having Magneto for that. Magneto is a little too powerful, I think. But he's fine. We've talked about Master Mold in the past. I'll play him. I don't like to overplay him or anything like that, but yeah, he's kind of whatever at this point. Next up, we have Mysterio, who I think usually hangs around the middle. I'm gonna put him a little below Collector 2. I could see the argument for a little above Collector 2 as well. I can go either way on it. I think his mechanic is interesting. I think he's fine. I don't like to overdo it. I don't like to kind of like stuff my deck full of cards. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But I think it's fine. I don't hate the villain. But I think in that box, he's probably one of the weakest ones. He's probably the weakest one for me, personally. All right, then we have Mugen Formula, who I still think is an absolute goated scenario. It's phenomenal. It's amazing to this day how well this scenario still holds up. It's a fair challenge. It's a fun challenge. It's enjoyable. Yes, yes, please. Really enjoy it. So I still think it's one of the best scenarios that they've ever done. All right, so we have Red Skull, who I enjoy a lot. I've been playing a lot more Red Skull recently. There's some downside to him, where, like, again, there's certain cards that you would like to use that search for the side schemes in the encounter deck, but obviously that doesn't exist because he has his own thing. Those little hiccups are kind of weird. There is a way where if you play Expert and you get, what is it, Master Plan, when you have to discard cards until an encounter deck a side scheme comes out of the encounter deck, like he could just deck out like right away, and it's kind of like a really nasty card to get right off the rip. So that part stinks, but if you just factor it in, you go in knowing it's not the worst thing in the world. So he's fine. He's fine for what it is. I shouldn't say he's fine. He's fine for that. He's very good for everything else, right? He's very good for that. Very good in general. All right, then we have Rhino, where Rhino, I have no reason to play Rhino. There's so many better scenarios, so many better villains. I'm happy that he's not a pushover. 2-player, I still use him all the time to teach the game. I'll play him now and again, 2-player if I have to. Solo, I'll never play him. That's just him in a nutshell. Now we have the infamous Risky Business Madness counters. I still disagree with a lot of people that say this is a really easy scenario because all I have to do is control the counters and then flip and then one-shot him. Every time I flip him, he draws a card that gets rid of the Madness counters, flips back down, we're back to square one. Especially on Expert. I'll play if I have to because I get frustrated with the Madness counters. I don't think he's again, I just don't think he's as easy as everyone says. I really don't. I know I have bad luck with card draw. I understand that. But my bad luck is even worse when I play Risky Business. I swear, I will always grab a card that removes the Madness counters so he flips back down. Because everyone's like, flip him up and then one-shot him. The problem is I have to do enough damage to get rid of all those counters that are on him because they're like, you can just stack the counters as much as you want on his Norman Osborn side, except you have to do a ton of damage then and keep the main scheme in check, which, okay, fine, we could do. But then if I make that push to flip him, I don't have that massive amount of damage then to immediately knock him into the next stage and get hit for whatever damage. And then without fail, my encounter card will be something that gets rid of the Madness counters without fail. So again, maybe people have better luck than I do with playing him and they don't draw that card at the worst possible situation, but I do every single time. So I'll play if I have to, but I still get frustrated with him. All right, now we have Strife, and I don't like Strife's design. I don't think Strife is designed well. I don't think he's a hard villain. I think he's actually really easy because the thing is, I know he hits you really quick. Let's just look at this. So the whole thing with Strife is that he will put more cards into your hand, right? So after resolving step 1 of the villain phase, each player places X right here, where X is the number of cards most common in their hand size, right? And you can discard 1 if you want. When you get to 2B, Strife gains Stalwart, which is fine. Each identity gets +2 hand size. Increase the resource to pay for each card by 1. If you have resource generators and you're drawing 2 extra cards and hopefully one of them is doubles, like, it's not that hard. And then at the end, well, most people probably do in standard. So when he attacks you, he gets +X attack, where X is the number of cards, the most common type in your hand. He's still only swinging for 2. So like most of the time with a higher hand size, I'll still only get like 3. So maybe it's 4, but he doesn't have a lot of overkill. So he's just running into allies most of the time, right? I'm getting rid of his overkill for the vast majority of the time. So his big thing is like he'll attack Hope Summers, right? So flip this card, Living Bomb. Where is it? Living Bomb. Strife cannot be defeated, so you get rid of this, right, to move on. So what is it? There's a whole thing where like he's gonna start targeting Hope, but you just block for Hope, right? Forgot where it is, wherever it is. But anyway, because you get so many extra cards, and I get what they're trying to do, where like you get extra cards, but then he'll attack you for more. But I don't. I'll have so many cards I could play bigger and better things. Like I don't have to worry about it as much. So yeah, it's just, oh, here it is with the Hope Summers can only attack Strife and can only thwart the scheme, which is fine. After Strife is defeated, move the last. Oh, no, that's just Hope's thing. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't see it as a hard scenario. It's never been that hard. I mean, are there times that kind of like I get a bad, turn and things hit me and whatnot? Yeah. But again, it's never this, I don't know. We talk about how strong card draw is in general. And card draw is automatically given to you by this. So if you're making that final push, like I'm just going to start pushing really hard. And like you should be built out. Like you have enough time during 1B to kind of build out, right? You have your normal hand size still during 1B. So it's even he's putting a lot of threat on there. Like it's never that much. Like adding 2-3 maybe threat, it's like not the worst thing in the world. You can easily reduce it down. Obviously, the 2B thing is where you're going to be making your push anyway. And I don't know. It hasn't really been that bad, to be completely honest. 17 life, like it's a good amount of life, but it's not a crazy amount of life. And again, with I should have Hope at that point, so I'm pushing Hope hard as well. Like it's just, I don't know. So the idea seemed interesting, but it's just in execution, I don't think it works that great, really. So I'll play if I have to. Nice, below risky business. I believe I have to. I just don't think it's like that amazing and great of a scenario. All right, next up we have Spiral. And Spiral I actually enjoy a lot. I feel like a lot of people don't like Spiral. But I do. I do like Spiral. She's going to be below Hela. I like the whole... I like the whole like trying to find mechanic. I like that it's balanced where you can just scheme or you can just take damage. So if you're playing with someone like Hulk, you still have like the ability to do it. It's fine. So I'm actually kind of a fan of Spiral. I think she works pretty well. She's pretty fun. So Spiral, I've talked a lot about her in the past. I enjoy. Maybe she'll slip to fine, but I still enjoy her a fair amount. The Hood is someone I don't enjoy at all because I don't like doing all the mod sets. I've gotten better. But like if I have to pick a mod set, I just literally put my hand in the box and pick out a random mod set and just call it a day. It's still a lot. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. So anyway. The Hood is pretty far down there. We've talked about him a lot. Taskmaster. I think Taskmaster's fine. I think he's a little bit better than... I think I'll put him here. Yeah, I'll put him a little above Mysterio. I think he's fine. He's kind of an old but good villain. Main scheme's a little too high. Don't flip a ton with him, so you'll be fine. It's whatever. All right, Ultron. I still enjoy Ultron. Ultron's a really tough scenario. There's times that you can kind of cheese in with just having Hawkeye leadership ally out there. Helps a lot. Anything that could do massive amounts of damage to minions is good, right? Like just stunning and confusing him works really well as well. So he's susceptible to a lot of things. I still think he's a cool mechanic. I still think the way he works is really cool and really interesting. So it's fine. It's fine. All right, then we have Unis, who I really enjoy. Unis, I'm going to put him between the apocalypses, but he can go really anywhere in here. I think they did a good job with them for a quote unquote stage 1 like scenario villain. I think they did all right. I'm pretty happy with him. I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. I think he's a good challenge. I think he's fun. I think he's interesting. I do need to play more of him because it's been a little while now because I played him a lot in the beginning and I kind of slowed down. But yeah, I enjoy him a fair amount, and I could see him hanging around here a decent amount. I like his whole permanent side scheme thing, and if you let it run away, like it's a trade-off, right? I like the trade-off aspect that you don't have to do anything with the side scheme, but it's gonna punish you if you don't. So I like that. I think that's cool. All right, then we have Zola. I enjoy Zola. I enjoy him a little less, probably further down. Yeah. I enjoy him. He's just really hard. He's a really good challenge. He's really hard. But yeah, it's just he's really hard. But if you have a good deck and you have a good minion slaying deck and you can kind of rush when you have to, he could be interesting, right? He could be interesting. So it's fun. I enjoy it. Um, and he bounces around a lot because I get really annoyed with him sometimes because he just like demolishes me. But that's just me with a skill issue. All right, next up we have Wrecking Crew, where I'll play if I have to. I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it seem. There is a best pattern in which to defeat the Wrecking Crew. But yeah, I don't think it's like the worst scenario in the world or anything like that. I think it's fine. I do want to play it again somewhat soon because it's been a long time. So I might feel like a little fresh, or it may feel like a little fresh to me, but we'll see. Kang, I don't like Kang. No like scenario. Multiplayer, it's a better scenario. Solo, it's a terrible scenario. I'm putting it down the Loki tier. It's always been kind of low for me. I played it again recently, solo off camera, and I was just like, nope, I don't know why I did this. Like, it's just not a fun, enjoyable scenario for me. Multiplayer, it is better though. So all those who focus on multiplayer, if I had to, I put up This Is Fine at the max, but he doesn't become like a top tier villain for me, even at multiplayer. I just don't enjoy it enough. Mansion Attacks. I really like Mansion Attacks. It's really frustrating. I think he actually goes near the top if I enjoy it. It's getting close to being top tier for me. I started playing it again recently, and I really like it. I really do like it. I think Mansion Attacks is really well done. It's tough, it's frustrating, but it never feels unfair. It's interesting how the main scheme with the school like affects everything on the board state. So I'm starting to, I think I went sour on it for a little while because I was playing it a little too much, and then it's slowly starting to climb back up because I just play it now and again instead of over and over and over. All right, then we have Magneto. I mean, just Magneto's goated in my opinion. Magneto's a fantastic scenario, even though they messed up on the main scheme card and worded it poorly, and they had to errata it already. If you play the quote unquote correct way, absolutely fantastic scenario, really well done. We've talked about this in the past. It's one of my favorite scenarios. I still think it's their best scenario after they fix the main scheme. I think it's their best design scenario in general. So really love Magneto. Still play him to this day. Still think he's really fun. Magog, I enjoy, but he drops down because it really becomes like a rushing game. It's just how well or how fast you can rush with him. So yeah, I don't really enjoy that. All right, then we have Mojo. I know people like Mojo. I've stated this so many times on this channel at this point. I don't like Mojo. I don't like Mojo's design. I don't think he's fun. I don't think he's interesting. The fact that when the wheel stops and then you have to put all of the next encounter set on top and they all like kind of like go off of each other, like that's not enjoyable to me. It turns him into a villain. I just rush them, and it's not enjoyable. Even on multiplayer, like I'm just gonna rush him then, right? It's just. I hated how they did that. They should have had you shuffle the entire deck up. I'm just not a fan of that scenario and how it does. So I don't, even when we have to play him on stream, like I just don't enjoy it. It's just not an enjoyable time for me. Next up we have Nebula. Who's still down there? I want to like her more. I really do, but she's probably in here somewhere. The problem with Nebula is that you never know what you're going to get. So Nebula can be really, 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 really hard. I would argue harder than Ronin if she just keeps getting her technique cards and surging, and then they all trigger. And then when they all trigger against you, it's terrible. The other times she just doesn't draw her technique cards, and it's the easiest game you've ever played. That's what's kind of weird with Nebula. So I'm not the biggest fan of Nebula because of that. I wanted to like her more, but it's really hard to. It's really hard to. Expert, she's a crazy challenge, but again, it all depends on the encounter cards that come out. It's absolutely wild. It's wild how it ended up working out. So Nebula's pretty far down there. Sentinels, I still put them around Master Mold level. I think they're a little bit better than Master Mold, so I put them above Mysterio. They're fine. They're fine. They feel very kind of just okay now. I don't know. I'm tired of them. I played a lot of them. I'm kind of tired of them. You just gotta make sure you deal with all the side schemes and whatnot. I do give it credit though. It has the better mechanic that if you use chump blocking, it goes into like that collection more or less. You can't empty the collection, I don't think. But if it hits like whatever it is, 3 or 4 for a solo player, then you lose the game. I think this is a better way to do the collector scenario, so I appreciate it a lot more than that. But it's not my favorite scenario or anything. Like it's fine for what it is. All right, now we have Ronin. Ronin. I know people hate Ronin. I still enjoy Ronin. I think Ronin's a fair challenge. The thing is with Ronin, he's very hard true solo. There is an easy way to defeat him through rushing him. I've started playing him more two-handed, right? I'm playing two-handed against him. It's not that bad. It's not that, I mean, still hard. He's still hard. But he's not that hard, right? He's not as hard, I should say. Obviously, you can still get a run of bad surge cards that just absolutely wreck your game and wreck one of your heroes. I get it. That could still happen. But I do think he's at least a little more interesting of a scenario with two heroes. Is he still really hard? Yeah, but I don't mind hard. Hard isn't a bad thing to me. Hard help makes the game a bit more enjoyable. So anyway, he's up there. I like him. All right, then we have Sabretooth, who I know a lot of people don't like. I know a lot of people don't like Sabretooth. I do. I like Sabretooth a lot. I think Sabretooth is a really fun scenario. I like kind of the grind that it makes you go through. I think it's unique that he heals. And I think there's a lot of strategy that goes to that. Of like, okay, we don't want to just like do small amounts of damage because it's just going to heal it back, right? You have to get ready to make your pushes and you have to time your pushes well while trying to protect the senator thing. Like, I think that's cool. I think it's a cool dynamic. I like it. And again, it's not constantly punishing you because if you're just sitting at full health and he's just healing, then like who cares, right? That doesn't do anything. He's just kind of sitting there as normal full health. So it's you can still kind of control what you do with things. I don't know. I really like Sabretooth. I still enjoy him a lot. So he's pretty high up there for me. All right, next up we have Sandman with his sand counters. He's fine. He's at the higher end of fine. I do like Sandman. I think it can get a little boring after a while, playing a little too much, and you just kind of have to like make sure you mow down the minions so it doesn't get too powerful with sand counters. But other than that, like he's not a bad scenario. Just keep the sand counters in check and you'll be fine. But it's a fun thing to like every now and again pop in and you know knock him out. Then we have Thanos. I love Thanos still. I still love Thanos. I love his design. I love the Infinity Gauntlet design with him. I still think he's a fun challenge. I still think he's well done. I think snapping your deck is still one of the coolest things you can do in this game. So cool. They really did a great job with Thanos. I'm a huge fan of his. So he's still really high up there for me. Now we have Venom. I enjoy Venom. I'm going to put him in the lower section because I've been playing a lot of him recently. So he's getting a little stale. He is predictable in the sense that like how to work the chime counters and make sure you do them at the right intervals and whatever, and make sure you stack it really high so if you take damage it doesn't matter, right? There is a fun balancing act with that, and just knowing when to put chime counters on and whatnot, and knowing when to flip him and all that fun stuff. So I could see the argument, people saying like, well, isn't he a little predictable because of that? Yeah, I get that argument for sure. But I still enjoy it. I still think it's fun. I think it's good. So that's up there. All right. Now we have Tower Defense. Ooh, it's fine. It's all right. It's a little worse than Juggernaut. We played a lot. You just beat on one villain, beat on the other one. Like it's fine. And chump blocking is a little too easy with it, especially for whichever one of them like attacks you for +3 or whatever. Just like run it into the chump blocker. Hopefully you don't get overkill. If you do, then that messes up your strategy a bit. But just run into it. So it's pretty easy to work around now. It's a moderate challenge. You can test your deck against it and it'll work out all right. So it's fine. All right, last one's Venom Goblin. This is a tough one. I'm not gonna lie, because here's the thing. I like Venom Goblin in very small doses. Like I like every now, like once a month maybe, playing him like 2 or 3 times and going, oh god, that was awful, and then putting him back. But I do enjoy my experience with him when I do play him. You just can't overdo it, in my opinion, unless you're Web Warrior. I like Ronan's design more. Do I like Ronan's design more? I like Venom Goblin. Okay, wait. Let's do it this way. Venom's still pretty far down there because he's predictable. Actually, Magog will probably be lower. Ultron, fine. He's easy to spam now. Spiral's fine. Hela is actually going to keep dropping. I like him more than Ronan. Zola I like more. APOC is fine there. He's fine. He's probably going to drop over time. He's probably going to stay. Yeah, I guess around here. I still enjoy it, but I have to be very careful that I don't like overplay Venom Goblin, right? I have to make sure I don't do that. But he's really hard. I still think the best way to play him nowadays is actually to take out his whatever the mod says that gives him the glider and whatever. I know like that's the recommended set, but if you want to just have like a good hard game and not like a ridiculously hard game, take out that glider, take out that set of cards. It'll make it a lot better for you, I think, as an experience. And then it's still a good encounter set to experience. You know what I mean? It's still fun to experience. So If you mess around with the mod sets, he becomes a lot more interesting. If you play with the current mod sets, he's very hard and you may want that. But I think he's one of those candidate heroes where people, I think, would enjoy him more if they change the mod sets to something easier. I think he's a lot more enjoyable then. So just glancing through my tier list, I don't think I would switch around too much. Obviously, like some of them, like in the middles here, you could switch around a couple and whatever, and a couple here maybe, and switch these around. Maybe in the middle I rearrange this a little bit. I'm not going to try to refine it that much, but for me, this is like my rough what I would finish with. Really quick before you go, make sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think about my tier list, or maybe let me know what you really enjoy and what you don't enjoy, or if you want to write out a tier list of your own, like please do. That'd be really cool. I always love seeing other people's tier lists. Not that I think I'm more right or that somebody else is more right or wrong or whatever like that. I think it's really cool. Again, we're at this stage of the game where, you know, if we all disagree on everything, like it's totally cool because there's so many villains out there that, you know, the ones that you love will work great for you and that's amazing. And the ones I love will work great for me and that's amazing too. So the game, obviously we've said this a bunch, but it's always worth reiterating. The game is in a really healthy spot right now with these villains. I think even the recent box with Age of Apocalypse, even though I think APOC 1 is going to fall down a bit, I still think APOC 2 is a really good entry into things. Dark Beast, like I said, I don't mind. Where were some of the other ones? I can't remember off the top of my head anymore because it's been a while. Unis, I do like. I think he's fun and interesting. But anyway, they're still coming out with villains that are good, right? They're just good. Maybe they don't blow me away like Magneto or Thanos does, but not everyone has to, right? You could just make good villains. Like that's a good thing, right? Anything, I know people will look at this and be like, oh, his most fun is only 4 villains and that's it. And there's all this the rest and I enjoy. Like if every villain from here on out ends up in I enjoy, that's amazing, right? Because if I enjoy them, that's awesome. Like, so that's to me a good thing. And I think with this last box, they've done a really good job of that. So I'm really happy with the direction the game's going. I'm really happy with everything they've come out so far. I'm really excited for more villains. Like I said, I've said this a lot of times. I'm more excited for the villains that come out than the heroes at this point because we have so many good heroes. We have so much fun with the heroes. I don't even need more. I need more villains. Give me some scenario back. So anyway, appreciate you all. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.